Welcome back. This is K24 This Morning, and we are deep into the newspaper review. Of course, later on, DJ Ruby is going to be on the decks because it's a Hangout Friday. But we have to make sure we get the big stories of the day out of the way and then jump into the rest of the show. Also joined by Marcus Olang. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Yesterday was a heavy night, wasn't it?
It really was.
Yes.
There was a fantastic event somewhere, and I went to that event.
Yes.
And I got to my house at 2 a.m. Perhaps I should not have slept.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Because once you enter, it's the end.
But at least you are here. Let's look at some of the stories that we're talking about. We're actually looking at the Standard. Of course, front page, we're talking about the fact that what Kibra is now turning out into, it's not really about Kibra right now. People are saying that this is just a crucible for what 2022 is going to be like.
A testing ground.
And you said there's an emotional attachment you have to that particular area.
Yes.
We've already seen some of the candidates who are going to be, fronting different parties. Yes. Tomorrow, ODM does its primaries, and we get to get their candidate as well. What's your take on what has happened so far?
Thus far, I've had nothing of substance from anyone.
No one has said their
nothing of substance from anyone. I mean, again, it's going back to, it's exactly what Anyiko said earlier on. We've come from a legacy of someone who has actually instituted development for very many people, that has seen infrastructure put in place for generations that are to come. And right now, everyone is just talking about racing to appeal to a human being, one particular human being, or how this is going to be the testing ground for, which is fair, fine, that is going to be the testing ground for 2022. However, again, what's in it for me as a person who lives, who has been raised in Kibra? I have had nothing to speak to that. Nothing.
Okay, and we'll see what tomorrow brings as far as those party primaries are concerned, because from there now they'll have 2 months of campaigning up until November the 7th. Then from there, the people of Kibra decide who has the plan for them.
At this point, it's about prayer and fasting for me. Prayer
and fasting is important, Marcus. It's very important. Another story in the Standard on page 6, SportPesa gets reprieve in contested tax arrears row. Very many people were asking, when it came to this whole push and pull between the government and various betting licensing and betting companies, was it an issue of the moral decadence it brings to the youth, or was it a money issue? In that, if Marcus betting pays its arrears in taxes, are you now okay and can operate? Do we not care about this thing that we're talking about, the youth being sucked into betting? Or what really was going on?
This, I think, okay, so my reading of the situation are that there are things that are happening in private conversations that we now see being played out here. Amongst those things playing out is the very real reality that KRA has targets, and they are very ambitious targets. And the fact that they actually there are portions that do believe that there is a little more than what is being shown. And it's well within their rights to check on, is there something extra? However, the other side of the coin is the fact that this is a company that, because of certain institutional failures, has stepped in to provide services that in an ideal situation the government should provide. Right. When you think about sports infrastructure and such. So there is this tug on one end where it is the company saying, listen, we've given you as government this money, and we're also investing in this space as a company investing into sports, into youth, and da-da-da-da-da. And you still want to get more from us, from where we don't know, but here we are. So it's one of those chicken situations where the first one to blink will blink. I don't know whether this is a case of someone having blinked or whether there was a conversation and negotiation somewhere. Very
many meetings were held in terms of them getting back their license and just trying to get the license back and operate.
Yes.
Anyiko, the betting companies are bad guys, because that's how they're portrayed. You're coming in, you're ruining our youth, you're taking our money and you're taking it to foreign countries.
I just want to say that the betting companies are spamming me, and I'm not into betting.
Have a personal issue.
Yes.
I have a personal issue because I don't know where they get our numbers, but every time you're told, oh, you want something, you might win something, send this message, it's just annoying, and not everybody wants to get into betting. So, one, they're spamming me, and I don't want to be spammed. And number two, the betting situation has taken over this country, literally. Like places that used to sell food, juice, coffee, now have little like betting cafes. And it makes me really wonder where this country is headed, where the youth of this country are headed, you know, because we talked about winning some and losing some. You know, you could win some and lose everything.
Right.
You know, what's going to happen? I think the concept of betting is very dangerous, and a lot of people are actually putting their money on that concept. Instead of putting your money on the concept of betting, why don't you put your money or your time into another thing like your personal business or something?
Right.
So I don't know why the government is, you know, trying to shut down the betting companies. It's probably because they want to squeeze some money from them for their own sake. But I would actually say that there should be stricter ways of them operating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, that's the story you can
With,
get
with your permission, may I add just one quick small thing? Just a thought that's been triggered by something that you've said.
Okay.
I feel like it's also in part, if every little thing that's happening now is a symptom of something wider, something deeper, something a lot more dangerous, unfortunately. A lot of us, and I use us very loosely, knowing full well that I very loosely fall in the definition of youth. Very loosely.
Yeah,
Are you eligible for the youth fund?
Yeah,
I am still eligible for the youth fund.
Then you are youth, Marcus. Feel free, use the term.
There is a lot of us feel like opportunities are increasingly diminishing, and therefore we're looking at any single place we can grab and
Any
latch onto.
chance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at this particular moment, betting is it, because betting seems to be the most fair of chances. My leaders aren't listening to me. The people I've elected disappear, and then I'm expecting them back. Kibre, for instance, once we've elected whoever we've elected, they're going to disappear for a long time and then come back in 2022 or wherever it is that they'll come back. And in all this time, I need to figure my own life out. I need to figure out how I'm going to go to hospital, how I'm going to live in my house, how I'm going to do all these different things. And the job opportunities are getting more and more scarce. So what do I do with the little that I have?
Find a way to multiply it.
Find a way to multiply it.
That's a story that you can get in your copy of The Standard. Quickly, in a minute or so, let's look at the front page of The Star. Mikosh says YKQ cannot fly. He blames the Pilots Union and CBA for the national carrier's slow death. He talks about an airline that he took over when it was an absolute mess, and talks of the word that Kenya is very familiar with, cartels, within there.
Yes.
In just a minute, because of time, because we need to wind this up, how do we get KQ, back into, blue skies? Because every time, they've just announced another, loss 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
How do you get this to be the pride of Africa?
To actually live up to the name. Running a business / parastatal / KQ as it is, which is a monster that it is. Everything in life is about efficiency. Everything. And unfortunately, with a lot of our bigger institutions, efficiency is a thing that is very rare to come by. Precisely because of being a huge enterprise, there is always a risk at different points of bleeding things here and there. And without a proper system, a proper infrastructure in place, then that becomes a problem in terms of management. So they keep bleeding money in different spaces, from the hardware side to the people side to all these different spaces that they're in. This is a huge, huge deal, because this is a space that is actually an employment space for a lot of different people. Right. So if management and the people within don't have a culture of, and it's culture of making things work. It's culture. It's not about how much can I grab now. It's culture. How much better can I do?
Anyiko, we are here yet again talking about Kenya Airways. How do you get it out? Is it that, because you look at the flights packed, the tickets, if you compare with other airlines, not exactly the cheapest when you're flying out, yet the losses keep piling on.
This is actually very sad, because they call themselves the pride of Africa, but for me, KQ has always been the pride of Kenya, right? It starts at home. Yes. And every time I flew KQ recently, I wasn't impressed by the service, by the food, by the stewards. And I think, like Marcus rightfully said, the infrastructure starts from the top. And if there's problem at the top, it trickles down to the bottom. Yeah. For me, as someone who travels a lot, every time I'm inside a KQ flight and I try to compare and contrast with other flights, I'm like, this is not really the pride of Kenya or Africa. So I think it starts from everybody working there, from the CEO to the stewards to the customer care service. Kenyans are known for the hospitality. Good food, good service. that's not even what I've been getting in the flight.
Right.
So if we're going to sort this out and we start with the service, we have to start down and then go upwards or upwards and come down.
Okay, fantastic. We have to wrap up a news preview at this particular point in time. 30 seconds each, your parting shots. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, Anyiko. It is your birthday month.
Yes.
It's belated, but it doesn't stop until the end of the month, right?
Yeah.
But your parting shot, Anyiko.
Well, I just want to say it was my birthday. No, seriously. Thank you so much for having me on. Let's see how the Kibra by-elections go. I wish everybody in Kibra well, and I hope we do this peacefully. And yeah, that's about what I have to say.
Okay, that's what somebody says when they're busy waiting for their birthday weekend. Yes, what about you, Marcus?
There's been a huge narrative over this last week about women and the reality of women living in Kenya, across Africa.
Right.
Very quick, I think that it has been way beyond time for us to be a little more conscious about the role women play in life. And I don't mean as, you know, the typical thing we usually say is as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister. No. As actual human beings. There was a story about someone who was killed in South Africa and triggered a whole conversation even here in Kenya. So as a quick into the weekend space, it's can we kindly evaluate how much value we truly put on our women.
Okay, fantastic stuff. That's why we leave it at that particular point in time. Marcus Olang, asante sana.
Thank you.
Birthday girl, Anyiko Owoko, continue enjoying the birthday month.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana for taking us through the dailies this morning.
Thank you.
Like we promised you, it's a hangout Friday. Probably that's why Anyiko